Dia adalah James Abbott, dari seorang pemeluk Kristen yang taat. Namun ia tidak pernah merasakan kepuasan dan kebahagiaan batinnya. Hingga ia beralih memeluk agama Yahudi. Dan ia berharap mendapatkan ketenangan dan kebahagiaan yang dia inginkan. Namun kenyataannya, ia pun tidak mendapat apa yang diinginkan. Hingga akhirnya dia belajar Islam. Dan dari situlah titik awal. Dia merasakan kecintaannya terhadap Islam. Hingga akhirnya dia pun yakin, hanya Islamlah yang bisa membuatnya mendapatkan ketenangan dan kebahagiaan batin.
And as I remember, I think I did ask him, "Are you Muslim?" And he said, "Yes." So he said, "Are you Muslim to me?" I said, "No." And I said, "Can I be Muslim?" And he said, "Yes." I was thinking, is it possible for a white guy like me to abandon what my mum and dad had taught me and take up something completely new to me? Wasn't finding any joy in Christianity or Judaism. Inshallah, if Allah wills, keep on the path that I'm on until the day I die. My name is James Abbott. I was born in Stamford in Lincolnshire. I went to I think it was an Anglican school, a Christian school, and Sunday school also. As a teenager, I went to a secondary school. Then I started to lose my religion, my Christianity. When my parents split up, around about that time, I started looking for something deeper in my life, and I turned to New Age philosophy. This was very fascinating for me at the time, talking about sort of the cosmological. So I didn't have much success with it. I took up Christianity again, and started going to church, and started reading the New Testament, which I also found very fascinating. Some of the teachings, but again, I couldn't put them into practice in my modern day life. So what happened was I started giving all my money and spending all my money as much as I could, buying everything, just to get my financial situation down to zero, and just being a spendthrift, I suppose. I couldn't keep this up very long because obviously money was running out, and I started taking communion at the church, and this led to drinking more alcohol, which I hadn't been doing for a long time. I met a couple of Christian friends and also a Jewish boy, for a drink one night, and I'd been very impressed by an article in The Guardian about Messianic Jews, and I was thinking maybe this is the path for me. And so I asked this Jewish lad, what would it take to be a Messianic Jew? And he said, you'd have to abandon the idea that Jesus is the Son of God. So I did, and so I abandoned Christianity at that point, and started to experiment with Judaism. So I was wearing, the black clothes as much as I could, and trying to live by the teachings of the Old Testament, the Torah as we have it today. The first 5 books of Moses in the Old Testament, where he instructs the children of Israel to offer countless sacrifices, burnt offerings and whole offerings of lambs, goats, sheep, cows, oxen, also grain offerings, flour offerings, bread offerings, and also libations of wine. I took this to mean that I should consume as much of these things as possible, morning and evening. So there I was, making as much unleavened bread as possible, cooking lamb dishes, mince, and red wine as much as possible. And I was living with my mother at the time, and she was vegetarian, and she didn't drink alcohol. And I was annoying her greatly. She would wake up in the morning and there would be the smell of fried and roasted lamb coming from the kitchen, and wine, and she got so anxious about me. And I couldn't keep annoying her like this indefinitely. So I knew something was wrong. I was just unaware of what it was, and I didn't know how to progress or anything. So There I was one evening, without a job, without faith, near alcoholic, and I came across my friend Hussein. Back to my date of reversion. The night was an autumn night. For me, it was pretty much an ordinary walk. This time I hadn't had a bottle of wine, but I was still sort of delirious. I'd never noticed it before, but there was this kebab trailer, as I say, parked next to a pub, and this guy was serving kebabs. I guessed he must be Islamic from the way he had appeared. And as I remember, I think I did ask him, "Are you Muslim?" And he said yes. So he said, "Are you Muslim?" to me. I said no. And I said, "Can I be Muslim?" And he said yes. And I was thinking, is it possible for a white guy like me to abandon what my mum and dad have taught me and take up something completely new to me? Beforehand, I'd been at college, and I had a friend who was Muslim for a short period, and he was telling me a little bit about it all, but I'd never really researched into it at all. I was fascinated by religion, the monotheistic religions, and wasn't finding any joy in Christianity or Judaism. There I was asking if I could become Muslim, and he said, "Yeah, okay, that's good." And he said, "There's a guy in London who I'd like to meet. He's very clever and capable of Islamic teachings more than he was himself." And he said, "Come back tomorrow. We'll go down and see this guy." And I thought, no, hang on a minute. This guy's probably a terrorist. I thought, a very influential Muslim in London. He might be leading me astray or something. So I didn't go back the first night, but I went back the next night, and we did actually go down and see his friend a bit later. Turned out to be a very nice man, not a terrorist. So I took Shahada with him. I was introduced to the fundamentals of Islam by Hussein, stating the most important things you need to know when you start out as a convert Muslim. And one of these obviously was the prayer. He taught me how to bow and kneel and prostrate, and how to wash the wudu beforehand. And I started learning this, something that I used to go back every night. He would be telling me hadiths, looking back on it, on those years since my reversion until today, which has been the most difficult part of my life. I just feel that being a Muslim has helped me through a lot of changes. Most of the Quran has captivated me and interested me. In particular, I'd say in Surah Al-Fatihah, the first chapter, has been most important because it's the foundation of prayer, and it's obviously central to all schools of thought in Islam. Personally, I think that Moses ﷺ was Muslim. Not only Moses ﷺ, but also Jesus ﷺ, and also Abraham and Noah, peace be upon them all. We know there's a verse that says we make no distinction between any of the prophets. So we have to follow these wonderful men who delivered the message of Allah to various peoples at various times. These things, they've shaped my understanding of the world as well. And my social life now is basically pretty much either at college or at the Islamic Centre. That's what I need at the moment. I want to finish my course successfully, start proper work, professional work. I want to get married, inshallah, have kids, inshallah, if Allah wills, keep on the path that I'm on until the day I die, and for that reason, go to paradise.